right, here. Let's see what we got. All right. Give me a shot of water here before I get started. Hey, get a kick out of this talk here. Should get some good comments out of this one. All right. This is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. On the first Friday before Super Bowl. Got a whole another week and a couple of days before they finally tee it up on Sunday night in New Orleans. Like everybody else, you have to come up with content, things to talk about leading up to the big game, so that's what I'm going to do. And today, I want to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and how they will be classified moving forward. I finally got around to watching the Four Falls of Buffalo, which chronicled the 4 seasons when the Bills went to the Super Bowl 4 straight times and what was happening behind the scenes and the things that go along with that. I was around. I'm not like one of these new kids that hear stories and go with what the media tells them. I actually watched a lot of those games that they talked about last night, so it was nothing new to me. Only thing that's different is you hear the viewpoints from the guys who were involved. But as I thought about that, I went to thinking about the Eagles and how they might possibly relate to what I saw last night. The first time I saw the Eagles make the Super Bowl was in Super Bowl 15. I was glad to see them there because I didn't like Dallas. And they beat Dallas in the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. So I thought it was great. Evan Johnson, how you doing, man? From up in Michigan. I thought it was great that they beat the Cowboys. And so they went to New Orleans, their very first Super Bowl, and they played the Raiders. The Raiders were kind of like an upstart at the time, not in the sense that they weren't a good team. It's just that they were a wild card team, and they had to win 3 straight road games just to get. Well, I take that back. They beat Houston in the first round. Then they had to win 2 straight road games to get to the Super Bowl. They beat Cleveland to get there. Ryan Sipe and the Cardiac Kids, or whatever we call them. But that particular day, it just seemed that the Eagles was just too tight, and they couldn't do anything with Kenny King on offense. And then when the Eagles had the ball, Jaworski threw 3 picks to Rod Martin. First guy I saw that to get 3 picks in the Super Bowl. So we don't see the Eagles get back to the Super Bowl until Super Bowl 39, which that 24 years. And they come down to Jacksonville, and that's when they got beat by New England and Tom Brady. And that was their repeat year. Because they won it in 36, 38, and 39. So now the Eagles 0-2. So they disappear again for another 13 years, and they resurface. And I forget where that game was played, but that's the game they got the rematch with New England, and this time they won it. 5 years later, they played the Chiefs in 57. Can't remember the location, but they ended up losing that game after controlling it. And now they sit at a record of 1-3. So the question is, if Philadelphia was to lose, if they were to lose to Kansas City again, that would put them at 1-4. As you know, the Bills have been villainized for losing 4 straight Super Bowls. Nobody's ever done that, but they weren't the first team to lose 4 Super Bowls. That distinction goes to Minnesota. They lost Super Bowl 8 to Miami. Then they lost 9 to Pittsburgh. They lost 11 to the Raiders. I'm leaving one out here. And they lost Super Bowl 4 to Kansas City. All those games, the first 2 games for sure, were considered major upsets. Luna says, hi, how you doing, Luna? They were upset. But the point is, when a team starts to lose in the big game, it gets into the mind of the players. And that was evident last night that once the Bills started losing, it was hard to shake that feeling about here we go again. And the same thing happened to Minnesota. It just wasn't 4 straight like what happened to Buffalo. So if you go from a span of 4 to 11, it was 4 Super Bowls over 7 years. So that's not good either. Now in Philadelphia, if they were to lose, that would put them with their 4th loss. But I'm going to tell you something. Does it put them in the company with the Bills? In a sense, because it would give them 4 losses. But at the same time, it doesn't mean a thing, because all those were great teams. And it just so happened on that particular day, they got beat. Now, when you take a comparison to the NBA, where it doesn't make a difference if you lost three straight games, you can still win a championship by winning 4 straight. So it all depends on how you look at it. In football, it's just like life. You got one shot, and if you don't perform your best at that one shot, or you don't take advantage of that opportunity, it's gone. You're not going to get it back. You got to go find a way to recreate it. And that's the beautiful thing about football is that it imitates life. The rest of those sports, basketball, baseball, you got a lot of opportunities to try to make up for what you did on one night. So one night really doesn't hurt you a whole lot. You just can't let it snowball. But the Eagles and any other team that makes it to the Super Bowl, I think they should be honored for having a good enough team to get there. But I'm going to tell you another reason why it shouldn't matter. Who is the losingest team of all time in the Super Bowl? Who has the most losses? Care to guess? Okay, I give up. Time's up, I should say. New England. As great as Tom Brady is, or was with the Patriots, and how everybody talked about the dynasty, and they garnered all these fans, and everybody's a Patriots fan for life. Just like with the Bulls, you don't see those tags and proclamations anymore about the Patriots. But they were there when they were winning, so I guess you can understand that. But New England has been to the Super Bowl 11 times. They won 6 and they lost 5. So if you're going to villainize Buffalo or Philadelphia or Minnesota, then you also have to villainize New England. Let's count the games that they lost. The first time they made it was Super Bowl 20, also in New Orleans. The Bears beat them half to death. What is it, 46-10? Then they came back 11 years later, also in New Orleans, and they got beat by Brett Favre in Green Bay. That's 2 losses. Then Super Bowl 42 and 46, both losses to the Giants. And then they lost 52 to the Eagles. That's 5 losses. One more than Buffalo. Does it really matter if it was 4 straight or the fact that you lost? Something to think about. Nobody talks about that. And if it wasn't for a couple of bad calls or bad decisions that some coaches made, i.e. the Falcons, i.e. Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, they would have 7 losses. So I don't want to hear that crap about Buffalo being the butt of jokes and all of that, because they weren't good enough to win on those particular days. But New England is given high credibility because of what they did with Tom Brady, but they got the most Super Bowls out of anybody, most Super Bowl losses. They have lost 5. So keep that in mind as you think about what's taking place with these games. All right, let's take a look at the poll so far. Right now they said that if the Eagles lost their 4th, 86% of you said, yeah, they would be in the same category with Buffalo. Again, there's no fairness in that, because that is a team that has been consistently good enough to get to the Super Bowl, and just because they lost, they shouldn't be villainized. Again, take basketball. You can win a championship in 6 games. You lost 2 games. I'm not sure if the Lakers or the Celtics have the most championships. I believe the Lakers still have the most. No, the Celtics, I think they took that title last year when they won. But think about all the championship games that they lost on the way to winning those championships. If they won, say, 20 titles, and on average they lost 2. So they would have lost 40 games. So I think you have to keep it in context, man. All right. Let's see what we got going here. Zero Tiger. I'll take that as Zero Tiger. Keep it up. You're doing amazing. I appreciate it. Luna, I appreciate it. Mr. Aces, I'm new to your channel and just want to say love your content. I'm doing very well to get us great information about the game. Appreciate it, man. I'm just an old guy who's been around, and I can talk about a lot of different things other than what somebody read in the book. I actually watched them on TV. And like I said, I can go all the way back to the Eagles' first game where they lost to the Raiders. That was in New Orleans, Super Bowl 15. So now they're going back Super Bowl 59, and they're going to try it again against Kansas City. And again, it's going to come down to, can they run the football with Saquon Barkley? If the Chiefs are able to bottle up Barkley, then they're going to win this game. But if they can't stop Barkley, they just got that look in their eye that I think that Kansas City might just be in a little bit of trouble. Not necessarily because of that look in Philadelphia's eye, it's because the history that's surrounding Kansas City. Everybody's making a big deal out of the Chiefs winning 3 straight. Well, if they win 3 straight, that would be great, and it'd be the first team in the Super Bowl era. But I am certain there have been teams in NFL history that won championships before the Super Bowl. And just so you know, you new people out there, there are a lot of teams that are NFL champions before they came up with the Super Bowl. That's just a new modern concept. And it's not so modern now because it's 59 years old. That's older than me. But I think that the Chiefs, because everybody's got this emphasis on the three-peat, it kind of leaves them open and vulnerable to get off track. Everybody's talking about their place in history, and they forget about the task at hand. We talked about the losingest team in Super Bowl history, New England. Well, this is a direct correlation to New England and their losses. If you recall, the first time they played the Giants in Super Bowl 42, they were undefeated. What were people saying? Oh, this is the greatest team of all time. They're gonna go through the season undefeated. They're gonna just win this game. They didn't say nothing about the Giants, but the Giants were in a perfect position to play New England. Yes, New England was the best team, and if they had played the Giants just that one time, then they would have beat the Giants too. But here's the advantage that New York had that day. They played them in preseason. You know, these teams, they play a preseason game, say on Saturday, but what you may not realize, they practice against each other 2 or 3 days before that, all the way up to the game. The game is the culminating event of those 2 teams having those practices. They played them in preseason. They played them in regular season. No, let me get it right. They played them in the regular season, then they played them in the Super Bowl, and they also played them another time during preseason. So they ran across them 4 times that year. And each time they were able to tweak their game plan and learn a little bit about what they could do to New England. The advantage they had over New England was up front. That front 4 was getting off that ball and it was getting to that quarterback. Like I said before, I never met a quarterback that can throw on his back. And they put Brady on his back that night and slowed that offensive juggernaut down. And as the game went on, the pressure started to mount on New England because all they talked about was history. We're going to go undefeated. Again, there have been teams in NFL history that have gone undefeated. They just would have been the first team since they started playing the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is not the entire history of the United States. And a lot of people, not of the NFL is what I mean, a lot of people think that because when they hear Super Bowl, that's when the NFL began. Not even close, man. Been several teams that's gone undefeated. I know the Bears have done it before, more than once. So anyway, let me see what else we got here. Chris Messi says, someone losing that game accomplished more than plenty of athletes have. I agree, Chris. Just because you lost, that doesn't make you a loser. But when you're on the international spotlight like that and you lose 2 or 3 in a row, that's all people are going to remember. Never mind the hard work and the great victories it took to get there. All they can see is what they see. In other words, these are very short-sighted people whose opinion shouldn't matter much anyway. Aces says the Packers did it twice in 29-31 and 65-67. People forgot that I'm a Raiders fan, of course. All right, they won 3 straight championships, okay? Right, but you didn't win 3 straight Super Bowls. You won the first 2, and then you won a championship before that. So you are correct there. But these people, they aren't very well educated on the subject. But I can understand why people would pick at the Bills and anybody else who lost three straight, because that's all they know. But that lets you know that these people aren't really true fans of the game. It's kind of like, and I'm going to pick on the SEC again. The SEC fans, all they know is SEC football. And because all they know is SEC football, they think that encompasses the entire nation. Anybody else outside the SEC, they can't possibly compete. But I've seen several things strike at that in the last 15 years. They talk down on the Big 12, but I saw Texas A&M and Missouri come in, and I was hanging around Columbia, South Carolina at the time, and they go on campus and they get this man on the street with the students, and they talked about how silly it was for a Big 12 team to have the audacity to come into the SEC like they can actually win a game. It was just stupid, some of the things that they were saying. So, lo and behold, what happens? Texas A&M and Missouri set the SEC on their head. A&M never got to the championship game, but they won some big games. And Missouri got there. They didn't win the championship, but they got there. That was a Big 12 team come in with their Big 12 style of play, and they made it to the SEC championship game. If the SEC was so rough and tumble and invincible, how was that able to happen? Think that's a fluke? Okay. Texas and Oklahoma come in. Oklahoma didn't do so well, and I think their problem is their coach. They don't have the best head coach, and as far as I'm concerned, he's on the clock. And what I thought about him being a good head coach is playing out. He's just not a good head coach. He needs to go back to being a defensive coordinator and be successful again. But as a head coach, Venables is not it, and I never thought it would be. But Texas, completely different animal. If the Longhorns were 0-12, they can still compete because they got speed. If Texas has nothing else in this world, they're always going to be able to run. That is probably the fastest state for talent-wise in the U.S. So when you got a team put together like Sarkisian and you got an offensive mind like what they have over there, they were going to compete. I actually picked them to win the championship. They blew it, but they still lost. But the point is, they ran through the SEC. A lot of people say, well, they ain't played nobody. Well, who played somebody in the SEC? Because everybody else had the same kind of schedule. Georgia had the toughest, probably of the whole nation, but it just worked out that way. On paper, Florida had the toughest schedule. So it don't really matter what the schedule says in the preseason and how the game plays out. And it was Georgia that ended up with the toughest schedule. So the point is that Texas made it to the playoffs and representing the SEC. They went deeper than any traditional SEC team. Texas is still a traditional Big 12 team. They hadn't fully converted over to the SEC yet. They still have Big 12 ways. So the traditional SEC team didn't get past the second round. And that was Georgia. And the only reason they got there because they had a bye. So they make my point because all these teams are built the same. You got 2 or 3 teams at the top, 2 or 3 at the bottom, and you got the rest in the middle. And the fact that you put them in the playoff bracket and the SEC got eliminated in the head-to-head competition, now you can't sit back and say, well, they playing in a championship game because they ain't played nobody. Well, they played you and they beat you, and now you don't have a damn thing to say about it. So that's interesting to me. All right. But yeah, if the Eagles lose this game, that's going to be their 4th Super Bowl loss. And that's going to put them in company with the Bills, who lost 4 straight. Then you had the Vikings, who lost 4 games over 7 years. And like Mr. Aces said, he mentioned the Packers. They won it 3 straight times this year before the Super Bowl, and then the following 2, that gave them 3. And to add to that futility, the Giants, they had lost 3 straight championship games. So there's a lot of teams that have lost that have been very good, but they just couldn't beat that best team. But does that make them a villain? I don't think so. So if the Eagles do lose, let's not villainize them for being a team that can't win the big one. It just so happened that they lost. And I just think that if Kansas City, if they can't stop that run, then we won't even have a need to be talking about the Eagles losing, because there's no way Kansas City is going to be able to win this game if they can't stop Barkley, whether or not they get referee calls or not. Now, you know they are likely to get some officials making a call in their way. You can't tell me, and I'm not a Chiefs fan, by the way, and a lot of people are saying, well, why people are complaining about the Chiefs. I'm not complaining about the Chiefs, I'm just pointing out reality. Josh Allen got that first down on 4th and 1. They had a 1-point lead, and they were chewing up the clock, and they was about to punch Kansas City out. But they got bailed out that time by the officials in a bad spot. Now, I think the Bills are guilty of being kind of predictable, like Philadelphia is with that tush push, but they don't have the same success rate that the Eagles have. So but the fact that, you know, Josh Allen is going to run and you know that watching film study is going to run to the left, the Chiefs were waiting on that. So they put themselves in position to have a bad call against them. They got to be more versatile than just running the same play all the time. But still, to my mind, what I saw, that man clearly had that first down. The guy on the play side call that's marking the ball, he had it as a first down. The guy behind him who didn't have the best view, he said, no, he didn't make it. So what did they do? He waved him off. New York verified it. And next thing you know, Kansas City comes back and win the game. All right, Josh was short. No, I don't think he was short, PDR. They just called him short. But it goes back to what Evander Holyfield said. Your objective as a boxer is to knock the other guy out, get him out of there. But if you don't, then you leave it up to the interpretation of others to decide who wins the fight. And you have no control at that point. So whatever they decide, that's what happened. So the Bills, they got a bad spot. They lost. But it wasn't the reason that they lost. It's the fact that Kansas City made the play calls to convert, to keep the ball. Buffalo couldn't get them off the field. So you can't say the referees cost them in that situation. They just got out-coached. And that corner blitz, that was a great call. They hadn't shown it. And when you put your back in motion, it shows the quarterback whether they running man or zone. And he didn't get the look he thought he was going to get. It was a zone blitz with the corner coming. That was a great call, man. You got to give him credit for that. But he can only use that once. So you know that Kansas City, not Kansas City, but Philadelphia is going to be waiting on that, man. And I think if Allen, had he not gotten that false read from the back going in motion, he should have just threw it to the hot route. Because, you know, wherever the blitz come from, that's where you should throw the ball. And he didn't catch it. And that was a great call by Spags. But he's going to have to come up with a game plan to stop Barkley. And I think he's going to have a similar plan to what they had with the Ravens last year before they had Henry. I think even with Henry, they would have been able to stop that running game. You have to stop them between the tackles. That's step number one. Maintain outside leverage. So when the quarterback pulls in and try to run the corner, you got him contained. That's two. Then make him beat you through the air. Hurts is dangerous on the play action and when they have rhythm and timing. But if he has to stand back there and throw the ball, I'm not so sure he can do it, man. And he played pretty well the other day, but he had some good rhythm and timing when he did hit those passes. But when he had to hold the ball, what did he do most of the time? He ran around, and threw it out of bounds. So he has to have it quick, and everything has to be working in rhythm. Otherwise, that Eagles offense is going to bog down. So let's just say it's safe to say that the Eagles are going to go as far as Saquon Barkley takes them this week. But they got that look in the eye, and they got the advantage of everybody talking about history. We've seen this before. New England got knocked off because they weren't fully focused on the game, and they just knew that they want to win a championship, and everybody's all goo-goo and gaga talking about how great it is to witness history, and the Giants had other plans. They had to be playing good football. They couldn't make any mistakes, and the Eagles will have to play the same way because they got a lot going against them. America's new team now, as Michael Irvin is afraid of, and I think they're going to have to overcome a lot. Maybe the officials somewhat. They'll find a way to give a call or two against Kansas City. Last time they played 2 years ago, I'm still not, you can't convince me that those pass interference calls were necessarily legitimate. But at the same time, if it's an interference call and it's legitimate interference, It doesn't make a difference what time it occurs in the game. This is a foul, call a foul. But you know, these officials, they don't do that. They let you play up to a certain point, but when it come down to the nitty-gritty, the team that everybody expects to win, they start to get the calls at that point. Watch the NBA, it's the same thing. All right, Josh be short. All right, Josh King said Eagles by a touchdown. How do you figure Eagles are America's team, man? I'm not going to give you that. I think the Eagles have a good shot to win this game, but by a touchdown, no. Kansas City is going to have to be off if that's going to happen. Let's see what the poll says. Philadelphia was to lose their fourth. People are still classifying them as with the Bills. No, I'm not sleeping on Jalen Hurts. I like Hurts. He's got a lot of heart, and he's going to be hard to beat. But the subject came up yesterday. We were talking about that tush push, and should it be outlawed? Eagles came up with something that is virtually unstoppable. But, you know, like Washington was trying to jump over the top and guess the snap count, and they kept getting the penalties, and the officials were about to award the score to the Eagles. Then you realize there's really not much you can do on the surface against the tush push. But let's talk about Mahomes again. He used to do it too, but what happened? He got dinged up in the pile. And ever since then, you haven't seen Mahomes do it again. The Ravens, they don't use Lamar Jackson to do that. They bring in the tight end, Mark Andrews, let him pound up in there. So if Jalen Hurts is going to keep pounding up in there, and it's a play that you know that's coming that you can't stop, well, then what's going to happen is, especially in a high-stakes game like this, under the pile, where all kind of stuff is going on when you have a loose ball fumble, those guys are fighting, scratching, and clawing under that pile to get the ball. Well, if they're going to keep running that quarterback on that tush push, mark my word, somebody's going to grab him by the throat under that pile and choke him, and you're going to see him limp off, and you're going to go tell the coach what happened, and that's going to be the end of Jalen Hurts running that football. Not saying that they won't do like the Ravens are doing and put a tight end or somebody back there to do it. They probably do that, but the quarterback, when somebody starts choking him and doing things to him on the bottom of that pile, he not coming back in there no more. So mark my word on that one, man. All right, he is a winner. It's a legitimate football play. I take that, but I'm telling you, those teams are going to get some back by stomping on him under that pile. So keep on running the tush push and watch and see how your quarterback gets hurt. All right, America started in Philly. It can't be stopped. Well, I get where you're going, man, but you be talking about two different things here, man. I don't like the Cowboys, never liked the Cowboys. If I even pretend to like the Cowboys, it's when they have a losing record, and I want them to win, so I have somebody to talk trash to. I'm in one of these places where the lights go out, so I've got to move over here and get the lights back on. So, all right. But the thing is, when they are losing, I want them to win. So I don't care anything about the Cowboys, but what I do know is that they're the ones that started that slogan, America's team, and that's theirs. So you can't take that from them. So I understand what you're saying about America starting in Philadelphia and all that crap, but that's got nothing to do with football. Football tops all in my book. And the Cowboys started it. I don't like them, don't care for them, but that's theirs. I don't want to take nothing from nobody. All right. No, I don't think they've been trying to hurt him. But I think if you got a play that nobody can't stop, you got to fight back some kind of way. I'm not an advocate of getting players hurt, but I am an advocate of trying to find a way to win. And just like I said about Patrick Mahomes, you do all that flopping and trying to bait defenders to hit him so he can draw a 15-yard penalty. If he's going to keep getting those calls, then you can bet, because it's not unusual for teams to put bounties on players. They can't post it or make it known, but you can best bet somebody's going to lay Mahomes out. He keep running down that sideline trying to draw a penalty, because if you're going to get penalized, hell, you might as well hit him anyway. So he's going to step out of bounds, and 1 or 2 steps later, boom, we'll lay him out. And that's going to be the end of that. And I think what you need to do, if you got to do that, then you're going to do that early in the game. You don't want to wait until the game's on the line like what happened to Cincinnati, I still think that was questionable, but referees get caught up in emotions too. And the good thing, though, the NFL do adjust their rules. They have this thing where they go and review the calls, and they can actually overturn it. And I think, I don't know if I like that or not, but at least you'll have the opportunity to go back and look at it. But I don't want nobody to get hurt, but play the game fair, man. And I don't think the quarterback should get all these unfair advantages when you know that you're baiting the guy and there's not much he can do. Once he launches into a tackle, he can't take it back. He's stuck. And those are cheap penalties that cost teams games. And I think they should do something about that. But that's just my take. All right, if he wins the Super Bowl, he might be on a Hall of Fame arc. Well, that's possible, but I don't think just because you're on a Super Bowl winner that makes you automatically Hall of Fame ready. Mahomes is already in the Hall of Fame, as far as I'm concerned. I think Tyreek Hill is already there. Derrick Henry is there, and a couple of other players are already in the Hall of Fame while they're still playing. That's debatable, but those are the ones that are definitely guaranteed to get there as far as I'm concerned. But we know how that is. But anyway, I don't have much time left. I wanted to come on and ask the question, would the Eagles be classified with Buffalo if they were to lose the Super Bowl? And most of you people are saying that they would be, and that doesn't surprise me at all, because that's just the way. T.Y., not a Hall of Fame player. Who's T.Y.? I'm talking about the guy from, I don't know his name. I lost track of what I was saying. All right. Anyway, I just wanted to see what you guys thought about Eagles possibly losing their fourth Super Bowl, being classified with Minnesota and Buffalo. But keep this in mind: the winningest team in Super Bowl history, well, they tied with Pittsburgh, but they also the losingest. They have 5 Super Bowl losses. So if you don't villainize the Patriots for losing 5 Super Bowls, then you can't villainize nobody else. And I'm going to leave you with that. I appreciate you guys joining me. I hope you like and subscribe. But again, I got to go to work. Tomorrow morning I come on free from time constraints so we can talk all we want. So I appreciate you guys joining me. And wherever you are in the world, have a great day. And we're counting down to the Super Bowl next week, man. So I'll see you guys on the other side. I'm out.